Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Talk Show. This podcast is dedicated to growth mindset. You see, I believe that you know something that I don't know, and I believe that I know something that you don't know. And the only way that each of us both rise in our knowings is if we sit in a room and we share all of those things so that we can both rise. For those of you that are new to this show and love inspirational content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in.
We come to you every day with the best speakers, relationship coaches, spiritual mentors, trailblazers, business owners, authors, young hustlers, podcasters, entrepreneurs, fitness trainers, therapists, financial advisors, and more. We ask our guests one question. What do you know that I don't know? Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of Her Talk Show. We have had over 400 women grace the stage, and we are adding another one to the list. If you are watching us live, welcome. If you are watching us on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love. Either way, if you could share this video wherever you're watching us so we can get more eyes and more ears on the awesome content we're about to share, that would be awesome. Her Talk Show is here to inspire and have you thinking outside the box in no time. Today, I'm speaking with an amazing woman named Witlee Ethan. Witlee is a podcast host, victim advocate, and a relationship life coach. Her mission through her advocacy is to focus on awareness, prevention, and education. Her purpose with her Live Each Day with Purpose podcast is to inspire others to take their story and live each day with purpose. Yes, making a difference one day at a time, one life at a time. Her desire for the Heart of Relationships podcast is to help people get to the heart of their relationships so they can have healthy and fulfilling relationships. Girl, we all need that. Her goal with life coaching is to help her clients build and cultivate healthy relationships so they can embrace their full potential and ultimately thrive in all of their relationships. Welcome, lady.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here to speak with all of you.
Yes, thank you so much, girl. I so appreciate you taking some time out of your day. I love it when I talk to, meet, and get to sit with women who really understand the mission of podcasting, what it means to be a podcaster, and what it means to be a guest on a podcast. Because we are sharing stories, we're sharing inspiration, we're sharing real life valuable content, education that can really help pull people out of darkness, out of a challenge or a struggle that they're enduring, whether it's your health, your relationships, your money, your business, your happiness. I mean, there's so much wealth of information that comes from these podcast scenes. So I so appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us today.
Absolutely. And yeah, 100%. I mean, that's one of the reasons I started to become a podcaster, was so that I could create a platform where other people's stories could be heard. Because I know that when we know that somebody else has gone through something similar to us, it helps us to not feel alone, and we can relate, and it helps us to just kind of carry each other. And faith is very important to me. So, we are called to carry each other's burdens. That is so important. And to share what we've gone through to help others as well. So healing after toxic relationships, like, what does that look like? First of all, what are toxic relationships? I think a lot of people, that there's still kind of some opinions out on that. A lot of people aren't sure if they're in a toxic relationship. And usually they don't find out that they are until way after the fact. And they're like, whoa, what was that? I just got like relationship whiplash. It was good. It was bad. There was highs. There was lows. What happened? Yep. And then I'm so confused. And then it's like, oh my gosh, this was a lot worse than I thought it was, because they kept overlooking the red flags and kept focusing on all the good. But really, when in actuality, if you compare the good to the bad, there was actually more bad than there actually was good. So let's go over what's toxic. Love bombing. It sounds good because it has the word love in it, but if you get bombed with this, watch out. This is someone who moves super fast, and my ex did this. Guys, in 2 years, he was engaged to 3 different women, me being one of them. Okay,
Wow.
that's fast. That is really fast. Saying I love you really quickly. Wanting to establish what this relationship is. Like we need to make a post. We need to let everybody know we're in a relationship. What they're really saying is, I want everyone to know you're mine. In unhealthy relationships, it's about possession. In healthy relationships, it's not like that, but they're also not going to be rushing you to make a statement of your relationship. They're going to be slow and steady and take their time. Gaslighting. Don't we just love this? When you get blamed for something they're doing, or they make you question what really happened. Oh, that I don't recall it happening in that way. That's not really. Are you sure it's not your imagination? No, I'm pretty sure that really happened. I found with my ex, all of his relationships mirrored the ones before. The current one was always exactly the same. Whether it was things he said to them, I mean, every story they told me about an ex was exactly the same. It was like the same person, but they weren't. They were all different. And here's the thing, everything I thought that was special in our relationship, that I thought it was just me, that I finally found the one that was meant for me, he said to every woman prior to me. And guess what? Ben is saying the same thing and doing the same thing to the one he's currently with.
Yeah.
He's a loner. He wanted to be my best friend. He said I was his only friend. He wanted to do everything with me. He talked about everything we would do. I'll go grocery shopping with you. I'll be there when you try on clothes. We'll never be apart. Red flag. You need to be your own individual person. You need to be able to have your own space. A guy should want to have his own space and go out with the guys. It's okay. Like, have your own lives. It's okay if you want to spend time together, but he shouldn't be with you 24/7 and need to be with you 24/7. That's control. That's a red flag. He's critical. He criticized everything, from the way I looked, from the way I dressed, from words I wanted to use, from me wanting to celebrate holidays, from things that I like to read and watch. Everything was under a microscope that made me question, well, why do I want to watch this? Why do I want to read this? Should I want to celebrate Christmas? Should I do my hair this way? Should I dress this way? And to the point that then I was like, what is going on with him? What is wrong with this guy? But it did make me question things about myself, and it took a toll on my self-worth, especially when he started attacking my looks and saying, I can't look at this picture. You look fat. It's a turnoff. I don't even want to look at it. Now, he then would turn around and then say, I'm sorry, I messed up. I shouldn't have said that. And then put over that picture that he now had on his phone screen, I love this girl, NOE, which meant no one else. And I'm thinking, this is really confusing. You just hated the picture and now you love it. I'm confused. Epic tantrums. I have never before in my life experienced an adult male throwing epic-sized toddler tantrums. So worse than toddlers that I was like,
yeah,
what just happened? And then he would say, listen, age and maturity don't always match. And I'm like, no kidding, dude. But in this situation, at 50-something years old, you should be a little bit more mature than a 2-year-old. I mean, yes, there will be a little bit of a, maybe they're not going to be like the most mature person, but when you reach adulthood, you reach a level of maturity that you should be able to act like an adult. If you're not acting like an adult and you're basically having to act like a adult figure to the person you're in a relationship with, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Pathological liar. Even little lies. Big lies, little lies. I remember him saying that he was nominated for the Dove Award. And he's like, isn't this impressive? Your boyfriend was nominated. And I'm thinking, why aren't you posting that on your social media? Why aren't you putting that as like this a nomination? This is huge. Why wouldn't you want people to know? Oh, you know, I'm modest. Okay, guys, guess what? He was never nominated. Shocker, he was never nominated. No wonder he couldn't post it. It would have been a lie. I mean, him saying, you know, like when we get married, we're gonna be traveling. We're gonna be traveling with like all these singers, Amy Grant and Sandy Patty's, like their orchestrators. We're gonna travel the world with them. Okay. I later found out after I heard from this person, he would never do business with him because he was shady and he felt he was unstable. He never wanted to do business with him. There was never a trip to Europe. We were never going to travel. None of this was ever going to happen. See, this is concerning because it can show how much someone's willing to lie. And then it's kind of the question of what else are they lying about?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, how far would they take this? Mm-hmm. You know, some things to ask yourself questions about. Sexually objectifies you. This is big. The person that you are with should respect you more than any other guy you've ever met. Like your partner should respect you more than any other guy that you've ever met, that you've ever been in a relationship with. Like they should treat you as gold. You know, if you're not comfortable with something, you should be able to come to them and say, hey, babe, I'm not comfortable. They shouldn't be on the defense. They should hear you out and be like, oh my gosh, like this is bothering you. Okay, well, like, yeah, like then let's adjust or let's do something. I want you comfortable because I care and love you. Abuse isn't love. Toxic relationships aren't love. And so when someone's objectifying you, they're not respecting your boundaries. They're doing things like he constantly would say, I've downloaded pictures of you. And then he would show me a wall in his house that had all my pictures that he downloaded just from social media. And would send me pictures of these files he had on his phone of all my pictures. And then would say, you know, just us talking, I got so turned on. I just went and I had sex with myself thinking of you and looking at all your pictures. And I was like, what? Like, dude, that didn't make me feel comfortable, especially since in our relationship and what was important to me, which this was our relationship, I wanted us to have some purity boundaries in place, and that was crossing them. And the fact that he didn't respect that, but he kept saying, you don't have to worry about it. I'm the most pure. I'm careful with what I watch. I'm careful with what I listen to. I am the most pure guy you'll ever meet. And then you go around and you do this. Oh, dude, now you're talking on both sides of your mouth. No, you're not that good guy. Don't be claiming like you are. Smear campaign. Oh, y'all. Oh my gosh. I know girls can be catty and we can gossip and stuff, but my ex took this to a whole complete new level. When we first broke up, he went to every person that I worked with professionally, people that I worked with privately, people that I had friendships with, even people that he knew that maybe, you know, we kind of were on the outs or whatever. And he specifically went to them. Why? Because he smeared me. He later came back out, wrote something and saying, I lied. Everything I said about her wasn't true. I couldn't handle the breakup. If you're a man and you can't handle the breakup and your next step is to retaliate and try to destroy someone, we have a lot bigger issues here that you're dealing with. And that makes you a very dangerous person. And nobody should be involved in that. But what was worse, and this is one of the hardest and saddest parts, is a lot of the people that he then slandered me to, that then participated in that slander, were people claiming to be Christians, were people claiming to be part of the pro-life movement, were people claiming to be leaders, pastors, even relationship coaches. And they thought that was okay. So now we have these leaders, and it even says in scripture, like as a leader, you are called to a higher standard. It says that in 1 Timothy 3:1-10. You're called to a higher standard. You're supposed to be above reproach. When we have people in the community that are aligning with someone who abuses or is in toxic relationships and aligns with that person, protects that abuser, participates in that abuse, we have a much bigger issue. And this is why when women come forward and we say this happened to us and we're dismissed, we're mistreated, we're pushed out, it's because they won't believe us because they're listening to somebody else. And the sad part about this is that we have a lot of people in leadership who shouldn't be in leadership and who we shouldn't be following. And we do need to be careful in following certain people, because if they're talking the talk, but they're not walking the walk, there's a problem, because their actions and words should align. And we have too many people right now that talk. They don't walk the walk, and they're misguiding people and misleading people. And in my situation, what I found was there's a lot of people that maybe should be doing a heart check and a faith check and whatever other checks if you're going to be engaging in slander, because this is what slander is. And some people might think, well, it's just gossip, but it's actually not. Slander is emotional battering, which is domestic violence. So anybody that participates in slandering someone with the intention of trying to destroy them, you victimized that person. And anyone going along with what he was doing was minimizing, because he then went and apologized to them and said, I lied. And they said, oh, don't worry about it. No big deal. Okay, now you're minimizing. Minimization is a psychology term, and it is a form of victimization. So for all of you who didn't know that, you just got some psychology terms thrown out there. But that's the problem, because that shouldn't happen. But what did I lose? I lost opportunities. I lost relationships. And I've been having to do damage control to come back from that. And we're going to kind of go through, how do you heal from this? Because there's a lot I've had to do in my healing, because the smear campaign to this day is still going on. And that's been hard. But that's a huge red flag. Also, I've noticed that toxic relationships, they'll try to keep up a persona on social media. Like everything's good. Like they always put their best foot forward. But the side that they're not showing everyone is the side of who they truly are. Like, I can't tell you how many pictures, because he's a graphic designer, he would alter of himself and put out there, and everyone would be like, oh my gosh, you look fantastic. And I'm thinking, you added more hair. You got rid of wrinkles. You thinned out your nose. I mean, all this stuff. And they're like, oh my gosh, you lost all that weight. And I'm like, you're still the same weight. Like nothing's changed. But guess what? It shows how easily people can be swayed by what they see on social media, when really it's just a small reel, if it's actually even true, unless they're out there kind of graphically redesigning what, like my ex did. But we can't go by that. And I think even for us women, when we see people and all the things that they're doing are amazing and everything, we're seeing the small percentage. We didn't see everything else that they gave up, sacrificed, and what it took to get to that one victory. So don't think that if you're seeing someone and they have a victory and they have a victory, that you're not going to have your victory. We have no idea what they might have had to walk through and get through to get to that one little victory. They're not showing us everything, so keep that in mind. So I don't know if you want to so those are what I have of toxic traits. I also have some misconceptions. I don't know if you want to kind of touch on that a little bit, Sabrina.
Yeah. So one of the things that I really appreciated was the one where you're talking about sort of isolation and having your own life. And the reason I want to talk about this and dive into it a little bit more is because a lot of times this can be seen on the other end as being romantic.
Oh, yeah.
So how does one tell, like, what's the difference between him just wanting to spend time with you because he's in love with you and for real, and it's just being romantic, and it being isolating and possessive? Like, where's the line at? Because there's confusion in that.
So this is a really important. I think it's don't dismiss patterns. And so there was a bunch of times that he would say things regarding this isolation that I would be like, ooh, oh, I don't know how I feel that way. So like one of them was, one of the things I enjoy. I love going and doing errands by myself. I listen to my music. I get in my own space. Like I love it. And he's like, no, I'll always go with you. And I'm like, okay. But then we'd have further conversations, and it would be this thing of, anytime you get ready, I'm going to be standing there in the bathroom watching you. And I'm like, okay, I'm not okay with that. And then we talk about future things. I'm like, okay, when we have kids and we're at people's homes and we have like all our kids, everybody's kids are running around. The guys are in one section, the girls are in another section. Where are you going to be? And he's like, I'll be with the girls. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because I want to be with you. And I'm like, no. Go be with the guys. And I did that because I really wanted to know, because the things he kept saying were kind of these like little like, ooh, I need to take notice. I'm concerned about this. But no matter what we talked about, it was always, I'll always be there with you. And I'm like, great. I want to spend time with you, but I need some alone time. And the fact that he kept saying, he wasn't coming straight out with it like you can't have alone time. It was, no, this is what we'll do. I felt like my boundaries were being encroached on. And I remember talking to my best friend and then sharing with him what she said. And he said, and here's part of the isolation, I don't know if I want you talking to her anymore. Like, I feel like she's kind of getting too much involved in our relationship. And I don't think that's good for us. And I thought, whoa, he's trying to isolate. And I'm like, no, I think she made some valid points. And he's like, at the end of the day, when we get married, it's going to be you and I. We're going to be one. Nobody else should be involved in this. Okay, so there's some truth to that. Yes, to become one. But you can't use things like that to try to control someone. Mm-hmm. And he often would do that. He would often say things like, you have to forgive me. Because if you're truly a Christian, you would forgive me. And then it'd make me question, well, gosh, if I don't forgive him right away, am I not a Christian? I mean, it was causing me to question what I knew about me. And so in this thing, it's like, well, wait, if I don't want to spend every waking second of the 24 hours of each day with him, does that mean I don't love him? Does this mean that we're not meant to be? And I thought, no. I have the right to have my own time. Like, if I need a breather, I should be able to have the right to go out and be with friends without getting a guilt trip because I'm leaving him behind. Like, he needs friends. So those things like that, I just started paying attention and I started taking notes and just really kind of being like, ooh, this is it's a continuation of this pattern. And I'll never forget, there was this one time when I said, oh, I'm passing this place where we're going to have our date. And he said, because our relationship was long distance, and he said, you've now given me 2 locations. And I said, okay. He said, you give me a third and I'll know exactly where you are. I'll be able to tell you exactly where you are. He said, it's how someone can find you. And I thought, oh my gosh, oh boy. And given that we were getting married, I shouldn't have been concerned about that. But the way that he said it, I thought, oh, why are you saying it like that? Like, it just, the way he said it made my skin crawl. That I thought, I don't know if you're safe. And it caused my accountability partners to say, would you feel safe being alone in a house with him? Like being married to him? And I had to come to the realization that no, I was not going to be safe. And so even though we had that first initial breakup, we did get back together. And that's actually how I found out he slandered me. And then eventually I had to officially end it because he became so unstable that even my best friend, whose husband is a cop, said, tell her to run. He is not safe. But yeah, isolation is you think it's romantic. Even like, I think sometimes people think jealousy's romantic. We romanticize jealousy. It's not. It's controlling. It's like, no.
Yeah. Yeah, with another one to kind of add to all of that, which those were all really good examples, is if you make plans and then they say something like, oh, tonight I had plans for us to go to the movies or go to the comedy club, or I was going to take you out to dinner tonight. Too bad you're hanging out with somebody else. And it's always something that's like way more enticing than whatever you're doing, so that you want to cancel whatever you're doing in order to go with him. So again, mass, manipulation and isolation and keeping you all to himself. So love bombing, that's pretty self-explanatory. Most people know what gaslighting is. I want to talk, and criticizing, people know that's epic tantrums. And I want to talk about this because, again, what is considered an epic tantrum and what is considered just like losing your cool? Because we all lose our cool. We all can get a little hyper sometimes. We can all get a little passionate about a subject sometimes. So what is the difference between, and mine, after his epic tantrums that would last hours, sometimes days, he would always apologize. And that was always confusing to me, because when I started looking into narcissism, one of the main key things that it talks about is they don't apologize. Mine always apologized, always. So, and I'm sure he's not the only one. I'm sure there's a lot out there that do. So what is the difference between, really? Okay, there you go. So what is the difference between losing your cool as a human, which we are allowed to do, we are allowed to get angry, and then somebody who has epic tantrums? How does somebody who's in the middle of it know how to tell the difference?
So I can give you examples for both. So at one point we were talking about a conversation of terminology of a word. And I said, a woman should be able to feel sexy with her partner. Like I want my husband to feel that I'm sexy. And he said, not a terminology I'm comfortable using. He said, I feel like it shows that women have loose morals. It's not a Christ-like word. Women shouldn't want to feel that way, like all this stuff. And we kind of got in this disagreement. That was the disagreement. When I sent him his Valentine's Day gift and I sent him a card, he rubbed it all over his face. And I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, you touched it and I want to touch you. And then he showed me that he was like putting it on his pillow to sleep next to. And I said, okay, I got to be honest with you, that kind of makes me uncomfortable. And he's like, what? He said, I'm showing you how much I love the gift. And I said, I get that. I got that when you said you really loved the card. But it's an envelope. And the fact that you rubbed it all over your face to try to touch me makes me really uncomfortable. And he goes, that's it. I'm done. I am done. And I'm like, done with what? And he's like, I try. Like, I would have thought you would have appreciated that. And you clearly don't. Like, that's it. There's nothing I can do. That's right. I'm done. I'm just done. And he like went off. And I'm like, what is going on? Guys, he's in his 50s. I'm like, what is going on? And I was like, I should be able to come to you and talk to you about anything. And you as a man should be able to handle it. Even if it's not comfortable, you should be able to be like, yeah, this stings and I don't like this. I hate that I made you feel uncomfortable. but that wasn't my intention. How do we fix this? That's how a man handles it. He wasn't acting like a man. And so to throw an epic tantrum and just to immediately be like, we're done. That's it. You know, it's like, how childish are you? We're in an adult relationship. You don't threaten to end a relationship all because someone came to you with a concern and that's your response. And that's the thing with an epic tantrum is they are then throwing it back on you. Like, see, I tried to show you I love this. See, you didn't like that. It's all your fault. And it's like, no, dude, it's not all my fault. Like, act like an adult. So that was the difference for me. And it wasn't the only time there was epic tantrums. And literally I'd get off the phone, guys, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Like, what am I dealing with? Because I had never dealt with that before. I am used to dating guys. I mean, I've dated guys that are jerks, but for the most part, there's some level of maturity there. I didn't see any with him. It was really confusing.
Yeah. As far as the mask and people around these individuals who have not high narcissistic traits, not seeing the real narcissist, again, can be super confusing because he's one person with you and he's a totally different person in and amongst his friends. Yeah. I guess there's really not a question around that. That's more of a statement as far as be careful.
Yeah. And he paints you out to be the very villain that he is.
Yeah.
I mean, these are guys that promise you heaven and they deliver hell. And then you're made to look crazy because people are like, he's so amazing. Like, what is the problem? And here's the thing especially with my ex, he is a concert pianist. His family's pretty famous or whatever, well known for being in the faith industry and world. And so everybody's kind of like, he has this incredible ability playing the piano. Talent equals holiness and godliness. And I'm like, no, it does not equal holiness and godliness. I don't care who his dad is. It doesn't mean he is a good guy. And that's all they would see, is they would see the person he portrayed himself to be. They would refuse to see who he was to me. And I mean, case in point, even when he went to these people and said, I was wrong. I'm like, I lied about her. Like, I slandered her. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're so pure of heart. You came forward and confessed. You're so amazing. And oh yeah, well, like, boyfriend 101, don't call your girlfriend fat. But yeah, no big deal. I totally forgive you. And I'm like, what? And he would come to me and say, they forgave me. And I'm like, no. You shouldn't be worried about them forgiving you. You slandered me. And not only that, never once did they say, how is she? Her reputation was annihilated. How is she doing? No, they put him on a pedestal. Oh. And he then was like, oh my gosh, they forgave me. They think I'm so great. And I'm like, dude, but you're not. Like, this is such a fallacy. Like, you're pretending to be someone you're not. And that was the biggest thing for me, Sabrina, was why don't they see it? Why don't they see it? And here's what I learned. Abusers don't abuse everybody. Especially master manipulators who wear a mask and know when to wear a mask. They know when to turn it on and to turn it off.
Yeah.
And so don't be surprised if people don't get it. Like, don't be surprised if the next person that they date doesn't get it, because guess what? They're going to fall for the same thing that you fell for.
Yeah.
And even when they told you about their exes and things didn't seem to align, and really everything they claimed their exes did, they actually ended up doing, you're going to feel bad for them and think, oh my gosh, who would do this to you? You're so amazing. And then you're going to realize they're not so amazing. And oh my gosh, thank God their ex finally got away. Mm-hmm. And you're going to know that the next one is probably going to be his next supply, his next victim in some way, shape, or form. And so I really think that's really important. But I also think that, and this is, I think, a little bit controversial, is that so many people think that abuse, there has to be physical abuse. And no, there does not need to be physical abuse for there to be abuse. He never physically abused me, but he did in so many other ways. And it still doesn't change the fact that he's an abuser, that I was abused, and that it was domestic violence. And so people need to understand that, because the people who are his alliance, who are going to be defending him and supporting him, they're not going to get that, but they don't need to get that, because here's the thing. How he treats you does not determine your worth. How he treats you does not mean that you deserve that. You didn't. You did not deserve to be treated the way he treated you. And there's going to be people that are going to make you think you did something wrong, you deserve that, and you didn't. There was nothing you did wrong. In fact, his treatment of you is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of a defect in his heart and in his character. That is a him issue, not a you issue. Anybody that agrees with him and thinks you deserved it, well, I'd be questioning what's going on with them. And if, like, this cost me a lot of ties with those people, and at the end of the day, I'm kind of like, I don't want to be tied to those people. They're not safe people if they're going to be siding with my abuser. Because anyone that sides with an abuser is pretty much just as bad as the abuser.
Yes, agree. And a lot of times they don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That is true, because he is just showing them the good side. So of course they're not going to believe. And again, if you believed him when he said this one was bad, well, then people are going to be doing the same thing in regards to you, thinking, well, she must be bad. And it's, a lot of them don't. I will say that since he's spoken out and continued to slander me, I made a choice and started speaking out and exposing his lies with the truth. And he didn't like that.
When did you decide to start doing that?
I kept seeing so many things online saying the best way to deal with a narcissist is just to not say anything. But I thought, if you don't say anything, they get away with it. And no one knows what's true. And I wasn't going to let him have power over my life anymore, of allowing to paint a narrative that isn't true, because your reputation is everything. And so whether people believed me or not, it didn't matter to me, because at least it was going to be out there. And so I started. I took everything I had, all the text messages, everything. I started posting them. And I said, I'm exposing his lies with the truth. Believe what you want, but here's the truth. And it was so empowering to do that, because finally the truth was out. And also, as a victim advocate, I will never, ever, ever side with the abusers. And so it's kind of my way of regaining my voice. And here's what he did, because now he was in damage control mode, was he was going to prove that everything I was saying was true isn't true. And so when I said he's doing this again to somebody else, he's mirroring our relationship, everything I kept saying, this is his MO, this is what he does. He ended up marrying the next girl. So think about this. In 2 years, he was engaged to 3 women. One of them he just married, because he had to prove that what I was saying was wrong, that he's just going to be going from relationship to relationship. Well, guess what? Now she's in a relationship with a man who sexually objectifies women. with a man who had done some pretty predatory things on the phone when he could hear a child in the background, which is concerning. So now she's dealing with that. And the fact that he had all this debt, all these different things she has to deal with. But he made this move to try to, in some way, prove that what I was saying wasn't true. And here's the thing, regardless of that, it still doesn't make that what I said wasn't true. It is still true. No matter what choices he makes, it's still true what he did. And so that truth will never change, no matter what he does.
Yeah.
And that's when you have to know your truth and own your truth.
Mine did the same exact thing. But I actually told mine at the end that when he met a nice girl like me, I told him that he better marry her right away. Because if he doesn't, like within 6 to 8 months, he unmasks. So he married her.
Oh, yeah. Mine just got married.
Yeah. So I often wonder, I think about her a lot, I really do, for real. And a lot of why I love talking to women like you who are okay with sharing their story, and why I share my story so much, is in hopes that as the years go on, she starts to see the same exact pattern. Because they do the same thing over and over and over again. It doesn't change. Yeah. Guys, they're not that smart.
No. And this is the funny thing. So my best friend had sent him ring designs that I wanted to him for my ring. One of those designs is on her finger. The ring I wanted that he didn't buy yet. So he didn't buy it yet. We were further along in the wedding preparation stuff than I had gotten the ring. Is on her finger. Again, mirroring these types of guys, they just take what happens in this relationship. It's the same relationship, just different partner. It literally is the same relationship, different partner. And here's one of the things he even admitted to me. He's like, my likes change per each person I date. He said, if you like something, I'll like it. And I'm like, yeah, that's not okay. Like, I want to get to know you. I didn't want to date me. I wanted to date someone. I wanted to date someone else. I didn't want to date someone exactly like me who likes everything the same that I liked. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want. And that's for us women. This could be a power tool. Know who you are. Know what you want. Know your worth and walk in your worth. Because guess what? I wasn't walking in my worth with him. If I had been, I never would have given him a chance, because he is not even within my league of my worth because of how he treated me and the type of character he has and who he is as a person.
Yeah.
And so if I had been walking in my worth, I never even would have given him a second look.
Yeah, definitely.
So know your worth.
So one of the, as we're closing up here, which I so appreciate all this. So we went over love bombing, gaslighting, have your own lives, criticizing, epic tantrums, which is just hilarious. I've never heard it called that before, but it's totally what it is. Pathological liar, sexually objectifies you, and smear campaigns. Great list as a starter for anybody who's starting to see signs of toxic relationship, of themselves being a toxic relationship. But I want to cover, as we're closing up here, because one of the biggest issues that I had when I was having cognitive dissonance within my head, as far as like, am I crazy or is this not good? Because they isolate you. You don't always have a whole lot of people that you can be talking to about this stuff. And you also just feel embarrassed, weird, and it's uncomfortable. But I used to think to myself, if this is not a good relationship, then what is a good relationship? what does a healthy relationship even look like? Like, I remember even thinking this in my head, like, what is a healthy relationship? I don't even freaking know. And a lot of times these abusers go after individuals who don't necessarily have a role model in that area to be able to compare it to. So, can you give us maybe a 1, 2, 3 of what should we be looking for to get a healthy relationship?
Yeah. I will say, if you're having to look up what they're doing and Google it to see if it's crazy or not, girls, right there, that tells you
Thank you.
there's something off with this guy. Okay. If you are Googling his behavior should be questioned. So here's something that you should be looking for. Does his words and actions align? They should. If he says he's going to do something, then he should do it. If he doesn't, then I would be questioning if he is even emotionally available. Someone who's self-aware is so important. Someone who can regulate their own emotions, who will take responsibility for their own emotions. Someone who is emotionally intelligent, handles emotions, empathy. You need someone who's empathetic, who will, no matter what, you can talk to them. Someone who is going to be practicing active listening. And this is something that I think even like women need to be working on. Everybody does. I don't think people are doing enough active listening to understand, not listen to respond. Listening to understand. So
That's
important.
good.
Yeah. So, and I think, first and foremost, know what you want. Like, what are your beliefs? What are your core belief system? And don't sway from that, because you shouldn't have to change that for a guy. Yeah, there's compromise, but not on your belief system. And if a guy is making you change that, he's not the one for you. So someone who appreciates you, someone who appreciates all your quirks, all the intricate details, all the layers of you, that's your guy. But look for someone, communication. Can they communicate? Can you bring up something to them? Guys, if you bring up something and they're like, all right, defense is up. No, can't talk about this. He's emotionally unavailable.
Yeah.
We need to stop dating emotionally unavailable guys, because in some ways their maturity is stunted and they have their own issues to deal with that they haven't dealt with. So guess what? They're not going to be able to help you deal with anything that you're going through. And we need someone to be strong. We go through enough hard stuff as women. We need a strong man, but we also need to be a safe place that the men can be emotional and vulnerable, so that we can create that emotional intimacy. And then that relationship is able to cultivate and foster growth.
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. So this has been phenomenal. I loved everything that you brought to the table today. Thank you so much for the insights in all the areas. And I also just so appreciate you being so open and honest about stuff that has happened within your relationships, to be able to really do the comparison. Because sometimes just reading a list on Google, for instance, is totally different than hearing somebody's real life story and the passion behind it and the confusion behind it. I think really helps people kind of put 2 and 2 together in their own brain, as far as doing a double take on their own relationship. So I'd love for you to tell everybody what it is exactly you do. How do you help all the humans? And where can everyone find you?
Oh, yeah. So the best link to use is my Linktree link, which is the / and then live each day with purpose. So just look up Linktree / live each day with purpose. I am a victim advocate, so I am working towards helping to change laws, helping to advocate so that victims have a voice and perpetrators and abusers are held accountable. And I actually just won a huge, big victory. Is actually I made judicial history. Yeah, right there, live each day with purpose. I made judicial history at the end of February, that I won a huge court battle. That also helps to set a precedent to better protect victims moving forward. As a certified relationship life coach, I am all about helping my clients to cultivate healthy relationships in life and in love, because guys, everything we do, every relationship we have, one impacts the other. And so everything's about relationships. So it's really important that we are able to have healthy ones. As a podcaster, I am someone who is creating a platform where people can come and share their stories, but it's all about taking what you've been through and using it to make a difference by living each day with purpose, making a difference one day, one life at a time. And here's the thing, we all have a story, okay? No one's story is better, than the others, or there's so much minimization going on. And if someone's not going to appreciate your story, because I've gotten this a lot lately, guys, with my story, that, oh, this is, like, I don't appreciate this, or there's too much trauma, or this is a deal breaker, or you're damaged goods. And your story doesn't define you. Your story is what you went through. It's not who you are. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not who you are. So just know that. Again, knowing your worth, walking in your worth. And for me, that's knowing my identity in Christ and walking in that. And then I would just say that I just want to really help women in empowering them and uplifting and inspiring them. And for any men that might be watching this, I hope that through conversations like this and anything that you might find on me of any, interviews or anything, that you can take something from it and either adjust, do better, treat women better. I'm sure you have sisters, moms, nieces, daughters, whatnot. There's some women in your life that you could be like, gosh, wow, like I didn't realize how heavy things are. And I didn't realize all of the, standards that they're forced to kind of meet and all the pressures on them. And like really be those guys, those good guys that show us that those guys still exist. Like chivalry is dead. Like be those good guys. Because we need to see that still exists. We need to see that those guys are still out there. And I think that comes down to having empathy and just being supportive. I think if we all were more supportive, more accepting of what other people had, and seeing that what they've gone through is actually a gift and can help other people, we would make so many strides in this world for the better.
Yeah, I agree. We have a question that came through, but I don't really understand what it's saying. I have a question. Most of us use our traumas to get into relationships, but why do we ignore having that connection with ourselves? Is there a word that he maybe miswrote?
I know that sometimes when you're getting to know someone, you can form a trauma bond. Like you might be sharing like something that you went through and you kind of feel like you have this connection with someone, which isn't healthy to have a trauma bond. But I know what's really important is just to work on being healed. I will say this. You can think that you're healed and you could be triggered later on and realize, ooh, I needed some more healing. Because here's the thing, healing isn't instant. It's not linear and it's different per person. Everybody is on a different healing journey. So we have to also stop saying, okay, heal, let it go, move on. It's like, no, you can't do that. And so that's what's so important with healing. It can come up at different times. So I've often seen people say, you can't get into a relationship until you're 100% healed. What does that look like? Because even in relationships, people go through highs and lows, like traumatic highs and lows, losing someone that then you need healing from. So then what? You get out of the relationship because now you're going through something? No, you need to be able to be competent adults, handle things, and be able to rely on each other to help get through that. But I wouldn't go into a relationship thinking, I'm going to date this person, they're going to save me. And they're going to heal. You can heal together, but that shouldn't be your purpose in getting into a relationship, is throwing all the stuff on them and being like, all right, here's everything I ever went through in my entire life. It's all yours. No. We can't do that. I mean, we all have our own crosses to bear. And of course, whatever you've gone through, your past and everything will become your spouses and vice versa. But we still need to have a level of healing and be at a certain place. Okay, so here's what I say about that.
Can you read it out loud for the audio?
Yeah, yes, I agree. I'm 32 years old and I'm dealing with my trauma from when I was 3 years old. So oftentimes I think people with trauma think, okay, we're just gonna like deal with this. We're gonna put a Band-Aid and we're gonna be good and go on. Now, a lot of the trauma, you have to go back to the root of the trauma. So say you have a trauma of rejection. But maybe it's not current rejection that's really causing the most hurt. It's rejection from when you were in elementary school and you were told not to sit at the table at lunch and you've never healed from that. You have to go back to the beginning, the root of that trauma to heal that before you can start healing where you're at now, or else this trauma in elementary school will always come up. And it sounds like that's something here when you being 3 years old. Evidently, there's something that you need to go back to heal. I will say life coaches can help with that, but sometimes, depending on the trauma, you do have to be referred to a licensed therapist that can really dive deeper, because here's the difference between therapists and life coaches. Life coaches, we talk about, all right, where are you going? What are your goals? We don't go back in time. We're not dealing with trauma. We're not trauma informed. I'm trauma informed because of being a victim advocate, but I'm not to the place where it's something that can really come into play as a life coach, only as a therapist, because therapists diagnose. You know, a lot of your trauma, think about it, everything's forming up until 3 years old. That's the most crucial time of your life when everything is forming. And so then you have these traumas. And these traumas can rewire your brain. Every time you go through trauma, your brain's rewired. So it's a reset button every time. So everything your brain learned to cope with, it's now relearning. This is why healing is an instant. And so you do need to work with a licensed professional. You might need so many different things or avenues. Like there's CBT, there's DBT, there's EMDR type of therapies that you can go deeper with a therapist. He says, oh yes, I'm dealing with that through hypnotherapy and it really works for me. That's great. But that's definitely something that you have to start working at the root of being 3 years old for you to be able to start working at being 32. That is so crucial. And that's, I think, with anything, if you have a pattern that you're trying to work through, an unhealthy pattern of like rejection. So before someone gets close to you, you're going to walk away from them if you think they're going to walk away from you. And it's happening now, but really it started in high school. You have to go back to your memories in high school and work through that so that you don't keep doing it now in adulthood. It's so important. You have to go back. And of course, people are going to be like, I don't have time to go through these emotions. I don't have time to go through these feelings. I'm going to just stuff them under. You have to go through the emotions to heal. If you don't, you're not going to be able to heal. And it's going to keep happening. And you're going to be like, why does this keep happening? It's because you haven't dealt with it yet. So deal with it. It's not going to be easy, but it will be the best thing for you long term.
Absolutely. Totally agree. So we have your website.
Yep.
Where do you hang out on social media? Where can people find you? We have a ton of people watching live. I'm sure there's going to be even more on the replay. They're resonating with everything you're saying. Where can they find you? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, so at that link tree is my Instagram account, is my Facebook account, and then of course is also where you can access my podcast episodes, which are on YouTube. So definitely be going, checking out. You can always also send me an email. If you want to reach out, you can go to Witlee, Witlee.Ethan, ETHAN @outlook.com, and you can reach out to me. I am happy to help. You know, maybe there's something that you've gone through, you've never shared with anyone, and you feel safe and want to share it with me. Absolutely. I will be that space that you can share something, and I will direct you in the way of resources if I am not the appropriate person to be helping you with coaching. But that is definitely where to go to do that. I am happy to connect with you, Facebook, Instagram. Again, I feel like we are all here. God created all of us for a purpose, and we went through things for a reason. And I think of it as Genesis 50:20, what they intend to harm you with. God intended for your good, the saving of many lives, and we are supposed to carry each other's burdens and help each other through it. And that is what I feel my calling is and what I want to do with life.
Beautiful. Well, I thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with us. This was a plethora of information. I know that everyone thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you so much for hanging out and sharing so much awesomeness with us.
Yeah,
Yes.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
For sure. If you resonated with Witlee and all the awesomeness that she shared today, make sure you connect with her through her link tree below. Facebook, Insta, it sounds like are her main ones where she kind of hangs out. So connect with her, follow her, and jump into her DMs and say hello. We love to connect people here on this platform in order to make sure we all continue to rise. Thank you so much for joining us here on Her Talk Show. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to the show and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you're interested in possibly getting onto the show, check us out at hernation.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire